real close. And when I'm through, oh, why not have it go? Take your time, steady and you can do it right. Shoshie can enter my world. Watch real close. And when I'm through, oh, why not have it go? Oh, we paint miniatures. We paint miniatures. We paint miniatures. Turn on tuning, hear what I say. Watch real closely, enjoy your stay. You'll see me painting from up above. And if you like it, give it mad love. Take your time, steady and you can do it right. Shoshie can enter my world. Watch real close. And when I'm through, oh, why not have it go? Take your time, steady and you can do it right. Shoshie can enter my world. Watch real close. And when I'm through, oh, why not have it go? We paint miniatures. 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 We paint miniatures.
Hello, it is Shoshie, and we are live, and we have some people in chat already say hi if you're watching, and also I want to have Alex from Resnova say hello if you can hear me talking right now. I think we're all set. Let me double check. This is a new setup.
Hey Shoshie, I'm here. Hi everybody.
Hello. Okay, everybody, can you hear both Alex and I well enough? And if not, I'm going to turn up some of the volume on the desktop audio for us. Go ahead and tell me in the chat what you guys think. All right. There's our music. Okay, good. It's all right. Okay. Can everybody see and hear? There goes the desktop audio. I'm going to turn that up just a skosh because that's a little bit light. 1 second. Yeah, it was really low. Hold on. There we go. Now you can hear my music, hopefully. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be streaming Razide. I believe it's Razide, or you guys can correct me on the pronunciation. There he is. He's all ready to go. I'm going to show you on the overhead what he looks like. There we go. nice and big. You'll be able to see him really well as I paint him. He's one of the alien races from Warzone and the new upcoming Warzone Eternal. Great. Tom can hear everybody. Good, good, good. Excellent. All right, we're set. So hi, Alex, you want to talk about this model particularly, and then also a little bit about the game and the upcoming Kickstarter? I'm going to get out
Yep.
some brushes while you do that.
Oh, happy to do so, Shoshie. And yeah, it's funny that you started off with questioning the pronunciation of this particular model, because in the 20 plus years of this thing being a creature, I've heard it as a Razide, a Razide, a Razide. For me, it's always been a Razide.
Razide. Okay, that's what I'm going to say then.
All right, but I'll defer to the larger community as to what it is that they consider the appropriate pronunciation.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so this is probably one of the most classic bad guys from the faction.
Oh, he's a bad guy. That's awesome.
He's definitely a bad guy. Well, I would presume that the Dark Legion don't consider themselves bad guys.
Yeah.
It's misunderstood. But the Dark Legion, the collection of these transdimensional, techno-organic, demonic creatures who have invaded our solar system. The Razide is probably one of the most iconic members of that group, and it's a partially constructed, partially organic creature created specifically to be a weapon for the Dark Legion.
Oh, okay.
Specifically created by there's a number of these apostles that are the leaders of the Dark Legion faction, and Elgaroth in particular is the architect of war, right? This is
right.
The apostle that builds all of these techno-organic monstrosities to fight the battles for the Dark Legion. And the Razide is, again, the iconic representative of this big hulking brute who carries this massive machine gun around and basically follows behind the hordes of legionnaires that make up the bulk of the Dark Legion force.
Okay, they're like the foot soldiers of the real bad guys then.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Okay.
Yes. So
that makes sense.
This guy is one of the baddest of the bad.
Oh, okay.
So we commissioned Chad Hoverter to work on this figure for us, and so the Razide, as you can see, posed very much like some of the classic artwork of the character. When we release him, will actually be released with all three different weapon options. So his arms at the wrists have separate joins, so he can carry this weapon or two other iconic weapon types. And in terms of releases, that's I think, as most of the people who are familiar with the Warzone Eternal project so far know, we're working on a Kickstarter that will be coming out this spring, and that's how we're going to initially launch this range of figures.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 minute because I've got a question from the audience. They're asking what colors are already on what paints and probably what colors are already on the model. So I base coated this with black paint, Stynal Res. And I airbrushed it. You can't see it because I use this bottle so much, but it says Stynal Res right there. And I base coated it with that with the airbrush, and then also with the airbrush I put Pro Acryl Burnt Red over that. And when you put that over black, it kind of gets this brownish color, and the more you put on it, the darker it gets. So that's my base color, is this dark burnt red. And then I went back to the gun and I just covered that with the black so that it's completely, because there was obviously overspray on it. So that's the steps that I took to get to this point. And then I'm putting some Citadel paints on my palette because I know a lot of people have Citadel. But I'm using these three: Baraknar Burgundy, Gene Stealer Purple, and Zarius Purple. And forgive me about the pronunciation. I don't use Citadel a ton. I tend to use Pro Acryl. And there's a lot of they use a lot of similar colors. But since a lot of people have Citadel, that's what I'm going to use today. Yay! Hi, everybody. Okay, so you have any more things to say? I've got some purples. This is for his arms because they kind of. Here, I'm going to show everybody a picture. This is Paul Bonner's artwork, and I'm going to try and basically use this as inspiration. I can't say that I'm going to get it exactly, but we're going to get close.
Yeah, well, Paul Bonner's imageries are pretty emblematic for this entire range, so copying him directly, that would definitely be a feat, but
Yeah.
but you're doing an awesome job so far.
Okay. Yeah. We already. Oh, let me show everybody the other two models that I've already painted, because I'm sure people are excited about seeing that. There's Blood Beret. Take it out carefully. And there she is so far with the chainsaw. That's a really cool weapon, chainsaw knife. And she's got several other weapons with her as well. The machine gun and then this pistol on the side here. I think it's a pistol, or maybe it's a mini submachine gun.
Yeah, it's just a sidearm. So for those people on the channel who are, well versed in Warzone Chronicles, so the Blood Beret Sergeant there specifically is armed with the mandible shotgun and the chain ripper, which are two terms that, again, anyone who's played Imperial through any of the iterations of Warzone should be very familiar with.
Yeah. And then there's our Golden Lion, and I've got his shoulder pads on now. A lot of people got to see the preview of him before I got those on, and before I got his weapon on as well. And I'll have to tell you, this little communicator thing, or I think that's what it is, with the tiny little buttons, that's tricky. You can get a very pointy brush when you get to paint that. And I didn't have, like I talked to you about how I didn't put the whole emblem on his shoulders, but I did do the stripes instead so that we've got, it's not just bare red. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, and the bare emblem or the bare shoulder pads, I think that's a great talking point. So one of the things that we've been working on is trying to figure out number one, how do we make figures that people want to paint but also can survive all of the the casting process. And so we had worked early on with our Imperial figure having the full insignia on the shoulder pad sculpted. The concern, though, right, was that it's a small enough detail, and we had seen this with previous iterations of the Warzone game, that the symbol, the emblem, gets obliterated in casting, and we made the determination that we prefer to have no emblem on there than an emblem that people are going to have to fix or possibly just cut off completely.
Right.
That being said, we have every intention of doing transfer sheets eventually. It's not going to be something that will be available at the time that we do the Kickstarter, but things like corporate symbols and unit symbols, rank stripes, those are all things that we intend to have on transfers at some point. So you can put the iconography on the shoulder pads exactly as the classic artwork showed.
So I've got some, this is Pyrrol Red, bold Pyrrol Red from Procryl, and you can replace this with corn red, or here, this one, sorry. I thought I had it, Mephiston Red. That's probably a pretty good dupe. This one might be a little bit more bright, so I'm going to use that one, especially because we want them nice and saturated in color. And I'm going to just start out. I'm going to take my glasses off because you guys know I'm super nearsighted and I need to be able to see. I'm just going to go ahead and touch all the little spots that he's going to get some highlights on. And I also happen to have some transparent red from Procryl as well, which you'll get to see me use, hopefully. We'll see what happens. I might not need it. But yeah, so I'm using the, so when I did the base coat, you can see that I did it from above. So all of the primer below stays as a shadow. because I'm actually using that to my advantage. It really helps you paint much faster. So all of this can stay because primer is just paint, right? So then it becomes the shadowed part, and it saves you a lot of time to do. It's basically zenithal without putting on the white, right? I just went straight to my base color, which was the red. And feel free to ask any questions, and same for you, Alex, if you have anything to talk about while I'm doing this, feel free.
Yeah, it looks like there was a question from Tom about what the material is for this mini.
Yeah.
So Shoshie currently is working on prototype figures, right? So these are master prints that are being produced so that we can have painted figures so people can see what it is that we're producing. So these are not actually final figures. So this would be made out of whatever the 3D resin are printing.
What is it going to be extruded plastic, or is it going to be resin when you get done?
So I think part of that's going to be dependent on how well the Kickstarter goes. So we're not intending to do resin or metal. Our current likely candidate for those who have been kind of keeping tabs on developments in miniatures production, there's a new thermoplastic that's being used a lot called Seocast.
Seocast, okay.
Yep. Corvus Belly is using it for Infinity now.
Ooh.
There's Monster Fight Club, their entire Cyberpunk range is being produced in it. And so it's a really cool material that allows the use of molds that are not nearly as cost prohibitive as injection molded styrene, but also has a level of detail retention that's pretty close to on par with resin. So it's a really neat material. It's not styrene, but it's also not PVC, and it's not.
And it holds detail real well.
It holds detail really well.
Oh, that's awesome. And so one of my beefs about the prototypes is that they're made of a brittle resin. How strong will the final minis be?
Yeah, they're nowhere near as brittle as resin. They're not flexible like PVC. So there's a little bit of brittleness to them.
Okay.
Removing mold lines is a slightly different process. But again, it's not like PVC where the mold lines tend to burr up as you try to remove them with a knife. But it also doesn't clean the exact same way as resin, for instance. So it's an interesting material, and I think a lot of companies are starting to move in this direction because of the efficiency of the particular technique. So I think a lot of people are still getting to grips with what exactly the characteristics of this material are.
Gotcha. So I just want to point out that because he's got these wristbands, it does kind of hide his awesome color change in his wrists a little bit. So I might, just to kind of do an homage to the artwork, do the highlighting of this metal with some of that color, it'll still be metal, but I want to kind of make it feel like there's still sort of that color shift. And right now I'm using this kind of purpley red because I'm going to go into it with the blues in a minute to blend. I like to do a lot of wet blending. So let's see, let me look at my artwork here. I think I'm gonna put this color. This is just blue. I like that, it's real simple. I need to open this up real quick. Seocast, is that what it's called, you said? Oh,
yep, that's correct.
Okay, good.
Seocast or Seocast. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation.
Yeah. All right, this is probably, this blue is really blue, so I'm gonna probably mix it with some of my purple. Let's see what happens over here. Yeah, that's better. And I want to thin it out a little bit as well because I don't want it to cover. I want it to seem like, because here's the thing about skin. Even on an alien, skin is translucent, so you're going to have these kind of layers. See how I thin it like almost down to, here, I'll show you the, probably 1 part water, and then like maybe 2 drops of paint, and then I just glaze it on, pushing toward the edge where it's going to meet that metal. So that I think it needs a little bit more paint. There we go. That's awesome. And I got a little bit on his wrist guard, but that's okay because I can wipe that off easily. And again, because he has so much of this covered, I'm going to run it up to his bicep just a little bit more than it is in the artwork, so we can get that flavor of Razide. And then I'm going to get some of that purple to blend in the middle of those 2 colors. Yes. See how that's looking? And it looks like his hands go back to red. Let me check. Yeah. So his hands go back to red. So we'll go back to the Purel and this. I love it when monsters have fingernails and stuff like this.
It adds a level of humanity to it.
Yeah,
Right?
well, you know what? I think that's what makes things the most monstrous, is when they are just a little bit human, you know? Because really, like, sci-fi is kind of a social commentary on ourselves, right?
Well, I think that's absolutely true, and I think there's a lot of that in the Mutant Chronicles universe, right? A lot of
Socio-political
references.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the Mutant Chronicles universe, right? Everyone has left Earth because we've completely destroyed it, right? So
Oh.
we've had to move on to the other planets in the system in order to find homes that can sustain us as a species, and it's in the process of exploring the system that we encounter the Dark Legion.
So I'm painting the underside of his knuckles, and because they're underneath his gun, I'm going back to the purple because it wouldn't make sense for them to be brightly highlighted. And then when I come up here, I go back with the red so that they show up really nice. And notice how I leave that darkness in between each finger. I'm being real careful to leave that there. Because that, if I paint over that, it will just it will look more like a plastic toy.
So Shoshie, I know that shorthand references to painting styles aren't always helpful, but what would you say that your the method that you typically make use of is? Is this a wet blending, a 2-brush blend? Well, it's not 2-brush.
Yeah, it's not true. It's not. I kind of simplify it to 1-brush blending. It's using a lot of the same. I think that probably the closest thing to it would be a mixture of glazing and layering. So I use glazes to smooth out my blends, but then I layer with the paints in. It's kind of like you stack each layer so that the highest layers are the smallest, right? The highest highlights are the smallest. And then you kick it back down with the glaze to kind of blend it all together and make it look smooth. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and add some purple down here. Oh, we got a little on its gun. Add some more purple. And wet blending is another technique I use a lot, especially when you're trying to, like over here where we did that blue. I need to add a little bit more blue to that. So you can go back, see with the red, and you're just wiggling those two colors together so that they blend together. Let me check chat real quick. Oh, I lost my glasses. I often throw things on the floor or drop things on the floor, especially when I'm not wearing my glasses. It's kind of a thing. Yeah, no problems. You can be late to the party. I'm looking at chat. Razide is beefed. Yes, he is. How big is it? How big is it? Let me show you compared to some other models. Okay. Here is a IP that we won't mention next to Razide. And here is like a D&D size mini next to Razide. Sorry. I hope that helps. Yeah, he does need to be beefed. Hold on one second. I'm going to grab my chat box so I can see better. There we go. Can we see this model beside the Golden Lion? Absolutely. That's a good idea. He's definitely beefed compared to the other model. Look at this. Does that help? So just seeing this character makes me think that humans might have a hard time against these guys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's the emergence of the Dark Legion created an entire, well, a number of different aspects of humanity specifically intended to deal with it, and I think the most iconic are a group of humanity's best warriors that they dubbed Doom Troopers, and they literally were tasked with invading the citadels of these of the Dark Legion and trying to stop the growth and incursion into what new lands of humanity they'd managed to conquer out the solar system. So yeah, the Dark Legion is not something to be trifled with, and the Razide is one of only many different new monstrous creatures that they have at their disposal.
Yeah. I'm just gonna try to use just a smidge of this purple here, because just to cat hair. We guaranteed to have cat hair on my stream, by the way. Every now and then. There, yeah, just a little bit of that purple, kind of. Again. The nice thing about Citadel is that they blend very well. So anytime you have a paint that has a satin finish like Citadel or Game Color, not what's the other one? Model Color is matte, and so are the Pro Acryl paints. They are both matte. Now Pro Acryl does have a nice long open time, and that means the time before it dries. But satin paints, the reason why they blend so well is because they also have a nice long open time, and that makes them really easy to blend, and specifically helps them blend with smoothly without a lot of lines. And it's just because they dry a little bit slower than a matte paint, in case you didn't know that. I get a little purple back here, because even shadows can be have highlights. Even shadows have highlights. So I'm shading here with the darker purple. I'm noticing he's got these like interesting cords, kind of vein type things all around his body.
Yeah, so a lot of the Dark Legion creatures, because they're partially constructed,
Oh,
so a lot of what you're seeing is they're actually tubes or cabling that
oh,
pump like vital fluids through the body, or
okay.
provide locomotion of some sort. So yeah, they're the Dark Legion doesn't have a lot of natural creatures to it. They tend to be mutated humans or
Oh,
creatures like Razide here, who are basically created in this.
constructs, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Fleshy constructs.
That's cool. All right, well, I'm gonna paint the cords red right now because that's what they look like in Paul's work, and then I'm gonna give them a little highlight after the fact.
Yeah, that'll be great.
There we go. Okay. I've got both the dark Pyrrole red and I've also got some Evil Sun Scarlet on my. It is tricky because I am mixing matte and satin paints in the same thing. But I actually do have. This is called Quick Shade Wash Medium from Army Painter, and what I really like about it is, even though it's meant to be like used as a quick shade, I use it as a almost like a drying retarder slash thinner, and it's really nice, especially for matte paints, because it helps me thin it and not get those crunchy, harsh lines when stuff dries. And because it's a shade, right, it's like a quick shade thing, it goes down into the crevices really nice as well. Okay, we're going to pop out these highlights a little bit more. Red is a tricky color, by the way. A lot of people struggle with red. For me, there's a few things that you can do to really pop your reds, and one of them is paint with a satin color or add a little satin medium, because red, I don't know what it is about it, but you can even see on this part of the skin where it's matte, red just looks funny matte. So it just needs that extra little bit of shine to feel really red. I saw another question.
Shoshie, there's a question in the chat.
Sculpt is so good. How many pieces is it? So it had the body, and I believe the arms were attached to the gun. So I think it was only 2. Is that right? Oh no, is it?
Yeah.
Or was there?
Nope, that was correct.
Okay.
Just 2 pieces.
Yeah, that was nice. I like that.
There are, in the set, there will be 3 different gun options in there, but they all attach the exact same way. So 4 pieces in the box, but only 2 to construct it.
Notice that I'm using the side of my brush to kind of swipe down to get these details, and I noticed that I just got a little bit of paint in between this. Remember how we were talking about you don't want to get in between the fingers? It's the same way for these little details, but I have some things to put in there. I have a little bit of Drucci Violet that I can put in here to deepen these shadows. I like to use purple for shadows, especially for reds. Let's see what happens, because it just looks, yeah, it looks better than if you just use black. I'll put it in his eyes and on his mouth specifically. What happens if I glaze that over the red a little bit? I'm getting the cat here. The Druchii Violet also has a little bit of something in it to kind of make things a little bit more shiny. So I like to use that. And there we go back over that to pop that red. See that? Three guns, yeah. Nazareth and Nazgarath. Wait. Yeah, Nazgarath. That's what it is. Is that what this gun is a Nazgarath?
Yeah, that's kind of the classic gun for this guy. But yeah, there's 3 total weapons, and I just put the other 2 in chat there for
Good.
for the question.
I'm being a little bit more bold right now with my color blocking because I know that I can go back and smooth things out later. But sometimes I need to be able to see how things are going as I'm painting them. And I'm a very impatient. I probably have ADHD. I'm not diagnosed yet. I'm in the process of getting diagnosed. But I always feel like if I have to look at a model for too long, I won't ever, I want to throw it through a window eventually. So I paint fast, and I also paint to my temperament. So you won't see me doing, layers and layers of perfect glazes. It just doesn't work for me. And also, if you're painting armies, nobody wants to spend 5 years painting. They want to get to play the battlefield, right?
No, absolutely, and that's something we're hoping that we were going to get across with our figures, is that
they paint quick.
Yep, they paint quick, that they're detailed enough to be interesting, but not so detailed that that you lose yourself in them.
Yes. He's getting really pretty really fast. Okay, back again with the arms and the purple. We're going to go back over here with this purple. And again, I'm wet blending this into the red. This whole palette right now that's on my wet palette, it would be considered, they're all on the same side of the color wheel together. If we look over here at my color wheel, let's see if I can show you. It's all on the same side here. Analogous is what it's called, these 3. And when we're doing any kind of color palette, you want everything to be harmonious. So if you want to make sure that your reds and your everything is harmonious together, mix a little bit with the last color that you used. Like right here, I used red, so I'm mixing a little bit of my purple with my red, so that it's automatically going to be harmonious with the next color. Oh, I just needed more purple. There we go. I love it. And again, I'm pushing this up further onto his arm than it would be normally, just because his wrist guard, his gauntlet, is already covering. I really like this, the way that came out. Okay, now I'm going to mix a little bit of this purple with this blue. It's not getting blue fast enough, I think. I need more blue on my palette. I think I need to do another floor check too. Oh, there it is. I'm off camera. Sorry about that. There we go. We're back on camera. The difference between Nazca Razides and normal Razides was never clearly stated, so you rolled them into the single unit type. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting deep in the
Feel
the
free to do
Warzone,
that on, out loud, because it's interesting to me too and helps me ask questions as well.
Well, so it's been an interesting thing in terms of deciding which figures we were going to work on first for the Kickstarter, right? Because we're talking about a game who's had, really three significant iterations in the past, and each one of them, had a number of figures that were released that were unique to them. And so, when you look at the entire history of the Warzone line, you're talking about hundreds of different types of figures, and that's a massive amount of work to plan for, and also a
Oh yeah.
significant task to try to narrow down and decide which ones are we going to work on first.
Yeah.
So things like what I was commenting there, two different unit types that really felt very similar except for some minor differences. What if we roll them into one, give some variety of options to players so that it still feels like it's representative of both unit types, but allows us to have a leaner catalog, right? So we
Right.
have a massive future range of figures that is intimidating for retailers or just gamers who are new to the game and just don't know where to start.
Yeah. So now he's really starting to look like a Razide. And you can see how that initial base coating that we did, it's still there. You can still see it. I'm going to add a little bit of that medium to this. There we go. All of the music that you're listening to here, I personally commissioned musicians to make for me. We actually crowdsourced it all, so you can only hear this music whenever you watch me. And this is one because my live stream, they got to choose what the genres, and they wanted some metal, and so we got metal. There we go. Oh, I love this. All right, now I'm going to get into his hands with this purple and then layer up to the red. Wet blends, red layering up to the red. Here we go. Go back to his fingers over here to make them match. Oopsie. So I was looking at the artwork, and it looks like his toes, these claws are basically red, and so I'm not sure. Shall I go ahead and make his fingernails also red? Or shall we pick a different color?
I think that would be something that the audience might have some input on.
Yeah, like, do you guys want me to paint his fingernails a different color? We can make them blue or purple. It's up to you guys. Twitch and DMC. Yeah, exactly, Margin. I think I'm saying your name right. I was way ahead of everybody because I am a big... I'm very superstitious about copyright karma, and I know that people were just using music without, royalties to the artists, and I wanted to actually support musicians as well. So this was kind of a win-win situation. All right, now we haven't even done highlights, real highlights. This is like the main, what they would call I can't remember, like the true color of his skin. And now we're going to do small highlights with the with the other colors in a minute. All right, I need to look at his eyes. He has these kind of little, oh, I see now. They're like little glowing eyes. He's a techno demon. Everything goes. Okay, that helps me. How was it to assemble the blood beret? Blood beret was pretty easy. The one that was a little trickier because it's a prototype was the lion, because the shoulders, there was this little tiny bit of a gap between the shoulders and the body, but I was able to glue it on no problem. And I think once they put out the actual model, it'll be fine. Techno demon. Okay, let me look at my picture again. We need to get on his legs a little bit. I love it, techno demon. That helps me figure out his the feel of him. All these muscles that are really kind of poking out, I'm just doing this blocking right now, and then I'll do more smoothing in a little bit, and then I'm going to use a little purple in the back because, like I said, even shadows get highlights.
Yeah, I think the striations you're putting across the pectoral muscles are really perfect. This thing is just a mass of rippling muscle, so
Yeah.
it looks great to kind of have that those obvious strands of muscle fiber.
Oh, good. So we can even get a little bit more deliberate with our painterly approach.
Oh yeah, I think painted in texture on this guy of that type would be perfect.
Cool. And that's a quick way to paint as well. It takes out like a lot of the stress of trying to blend perfectly. Can you tell us about the thought process in designing the minis? They look phenomenal. That is one thing I've been noticing on the comments of the model that I posted is people are pretty, number one, they recognized it immediately, and then number two, they were pretty excited with how it looked.
Yeah, no, it's very cute. So I appreciate the comment there. So, and I know I've mentioned this a number of times on the Warzone pages, so apologize if I sound like a broken record, but the intent really was, to take this artwork from the original version of the game that I think was so captivating, that grabbed so many people, got them to pick up the books and take a look at the game. And our desire was really to try to, create some new miniatures that really captured that imagery. I think there's been a lot of conversation, in the Warzone crowd about, what does it mean to try to, update the classic game and the classic image. And I think there's a presumption at times that to do so, you have to dramatically redesign things. And our position has been, we don't need to redesign it. The original artwork is awesome. Let's just make miniatures that capture that artwork. And so that's been our sole design process. I mean, every single figure that we have done, we've gone back to all of the original Warzone books, all of Mutant Chronicles books, looked through the Doom Trooper card game, and we've used those to really capture the images that we thought were iconic for the game. And I mean, this figure right here, for instance, I mean, this is based off of, again, the Paul Barner artwork that Shoshie's been showing multiple times. The Kev White sculpt of a Razide from the later days of Warzone First Edition. And then there's one other classic image that came off of the Doom Trooper card game. And it was those pictures, and we gave them to the sculptor and said, this is what we want, make this guy, and he knocked it out of the park. But again, that's been our thought process the whole time, is let's be as true as possible to these depictions of characters and creatures that we just thought were awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not usually somebody who paints a lot of like army troops and stuff, and I had a lot of fun working on both the Blood Ray and the Golden Lion. They really are detailed enough so that you can, you know, have a lot of fun just really kind of losing yourself in the painting, but not so hard that it doesn't take more than like a day or two to finish one. Which is ideal, right?
Yeah, especially, you know, as the game grows. I think you know, a lot of the people who are on the channel right now who are familiar with what we're doing, you know, they know it's a skirmish game to start, right? So the cool thing is you'll be able to start slow with you know, a small number of miniatures, spend as much time painting them as you want. And our plan is, as the game gets its feet under it, to increase the scale of the game, you know, far more in line with you know, the classic game that people are familiar with.
All right, I'm gonna look at his feet real quick because there is some blue on his legs. It's tricky though because my printer is almost out of toner, but can I go ahead and I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do what is done on his arms, on his legs. So it's like I'm gonna take creative license. So don't hate me if you don't like it.
Well, that's the thing, right? These
Yep.
are all manufactured, you know, creatures. So I'm sure that none of them look the same.
I did see, yeah, I saw some. I was looking up Razides, and I saw lots of different people painting them in lots of different ways. Red tended to be the most common, probably because of Paul Bonner, but there was also like kind of a gray-white color, and those were actually kind of intimidating looking. I really liked those.
Yeah, the conversation I was having in the channel there. So the Nazca Razide was a variant of the Razide that had this bluish white skin color to it, and they were the particular bodyguards of this one very important, high-ranking Dark Legion character.
I see.
And yeah, they're really cool in design. But yeah, ultimately, you know, starting from the same base creature, just with, you know, narrative differences.
That's cool. So again, I'm just wet blending and feathering. I use a lot of this kind of motion, and you can see it just makes this soft thing. And then let me use my brush here just to show you the blending. When I go back in, right, I can use several different colors. And then if you go a different direction, right, you can coat it even more.
Hey Shoshi, when you get a chance, could you possibly show the gun a little bit closer in detail? Nicholas is asking.
Is
about
that good? I don't know
the
how well
detail
my
on the
camera
gun.
will pick it up, but there is probably the closest I can get. Is that okay? The weapon seems a bit flat. But here's the thing, you can always bring out details with paint, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that so that you can trick the eye into thinking it's more three-dimensional than it actually is. And actually having it flat makes it a little bit easier to paint. I'm trying to think, if you could probably dry brush this a little bit. Let me get his fingernails real quick. I'm going to move on to the gun since he's mentioned that. I'm going to show exactly what I mean. Yeah, like that. Alright, so first I'm going to show you what I did on the Red Lion and the Blood Beret, because their guns are obviously teeny tiny compared to Razide. So you can see, like, I did a lot of edge highlighting. Here's the other side of this gun. And that's what I'm going to do on this as well. Leaving the base black. Here's the lion. I think his gun is even smaller and more detailed. So what I'm doing is I'll be edge highlighting with the side of my brush very carefully, and then anywhere there's like a bend or like a sharp point, I'm gonna emphasize that with a lighter color, probably like a white. But then the rest I think I'm going to use this glacier blue, and maybe this, I have some Celestra gray. I have another, I can always mix white with my black as well to make gray. Let's try working on the gun a little bit. So, okay, that's another question I had for the audience. So in the artwork, his photons or whatever this is white. And for the miniature, I think that will be a little bit boring. So I want to ask you guys, should I do it teal, like a turquoise, a green, or an orange? I'm going to let you guys pick. We're going to let people vote in chat. Turquoise, so like a teal, a orange, or a green. Okay, and then meanwhile, I'm going to start putting paint on my palette. I'm going to put the glacier blue, I'm going to put black for fixing mistakes, and I'll also put some of the wash medium. This quick shade wash medium will help me because it will keep the lighter colors from drying too quickly, and it will let me smooth them. Because one of the biggest issues with really light colors, anything with a white in it, dries really fast. And a lot of times, if you don't have a big enough brush with enough hair in it to hold water, it will dry your brush out like before you even get it over to the model. Alright, I'm going to use a little, I'm not going to use Scar White because I don't like Citadel's whites. I'm going to go ahead and use Army Painter Matte White, which will probably dry fast, but that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and use Incubi Darkness because the green, it's kind of a blue-green, will look really good against the red. It'll really pop out against the red. Teal. People are saying, we said, one person said green, one person said orange, and one person said teal. You guys are not making it easy on me. I need more choices. I might have to have you break a tie, Alex. Okay.
Yeah, I figure I'll give people another second to weigh in on that. And
Yeah.
then I'll,
Teal, orange, or
I'll
green.
vote.
Go ahead and say it in the chat. And meanwhile, I'm going to hit the tops and the corners, edges of the black with this Incubi Darkness. Basically anywhere there's a strong edge. Oh, good. Okay, so there's another green, there's another teal. We got 2 green and 2 teal.
Yeah, that's 2 teals from the same guy.
Oh, is it?
Averkios, you can't double vote.
Sneaky. That's awesome. I'm glad that he's enthusiastic, though.
Yeah, I mean that's been the thing that's been amazing about this project is, this property means so much to so many people, and so there are a lot of passionate fans. There are a lot of people who have got very, very clear pictures of exactly what this universe should look like, and we've been trying to meet those expectations. But yeah, they have been a passionate audience,
Yeah.
and it's been fun to work on a game for them.
So tell me, what is your experience with the game? How did you first encounter Warzone?
Yeah, no, that's so it was Gen Con of 1995.
Oh, so
and a
way up
couple
in
of
Geneva then?
yeah, well, in
Or was it
Milwaukee. Yeah,
Milwaukee?
it was in
That's what it.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a couple of my teenage friends and I, we'd gone to Gen
Oh.
Con, and we're walking around, and I come across this miniatures case, and there are a number of miniatures. Now I know better. They were Mark Copplestone sculpts. And Mark Copplestone is such an iconic sculptor.
Wow.
And I saw these miniatures that were painted well. The designs were really cool. And we came around the corner, and they were running a demo for this brand new miniatures game. And the game wasn't even released yet. The book wasn't out. The miniatures weren't available. But I think we demoed the game 5 or 6 times, and by the time it was over, I mean, you could tell they just wanted us to go away. and so they gave us printouts of the kind of draft rules at the time.
Uh-huh.
And we bought a copy. It was a board game called Fury of the Clansmen. And we bought a copy of that board game because it had figures that were somewhat related. And we went home and we played like Proto Warzone for probably 2 months.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we loved it. And then the rule book dropped, and that came out, I think it was in the fall of 1995. And our entire gaming group just turned to playing this game, and yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it was such a different rule system at the time. The universe was different, and so yeah, we just absolutely fell in love with it. And in the following years, I was involved with the FAQ team, the frequently asked questions and playtest team for Warzone. We went to Gen Con every year after that and worked the booth with Target Games, and so it was a property that just meant so much to me.
Yeah.
And so when the opportunity came up, and I found myself, with the chance of pursuing the license, it was a
no-brainer.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. I mean, it is a difficult. It's been a difficult process, getting the game up and running, and really assembling a team to do so. It's no small task, but yeah, it's been incredible.
Well, you can tell though when somebody takes on something because of passion and the love of something, as opposed to when they're just trying to reboot something. I mean, look at The Matrix. Right? Because we know the Wachowski sisters did not want to remake that movie, and they had to.
I am very hopeful that nobody looks at our version of Warzone as a remake on par with the most recent Matrix.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm doing here, and this is tricky because I'm having to hold it under the camera, and I don't have the best. I'm very nearsighted, so I'm having trouble seeing it. Usually I would hold this right up to my face. So I'm having to pull my face down to the model, so. But I'm going in here and I'm just hitting these highlights with that blue and a little bit of that Inky by Darkness mixed in. Oops. Yeah, I might have to fix that. I'm just kind of getting these layers more and more as I figured, because this was an old school style game, I would kind of paint it in that old school style edge highlighting. So it's not exactly my natural style, but it looks cool though.
Yeah, especially with the weapons like that. I mean, they're such sizable chunks that making the edges pop really brings them to life.
There are rivets on the gun, and I'm just gonna hit them with a little dot of paint. I need to add a little bit. So this is what I'm talking about, how it dries so quick on the brush. I have to add that wash medium in order to get it to stay wet for a while. but it's getting there. And sometimes I have to put my glasses on and then like hold it at a distance so I can actually see how it looks.
And it does look like you've now gotten overwhelming support for a green for the gun.
Okay, good. We'll do green. And it's actually a pretty easy to do green that way. So I just want people to know that even just that little amount of edge highlighting goes a long way, and you don't have to sit and edge highlight the whole dang thing if you don't want to. But make sure to hit the important edges that you want to stick out more, right? Because we were talking about how if you want something to seem a little bit more three-dimensional, you need to emphasize those. Okay, I need to look at my artwork. All right, so the first thing, before I even start with any of the green, I'm going to base coat the area that's going to be glowing with white. And I'm going to be careful because we're doing white over black. There's a little water there. There we go. And again, this is matte white, so we're just going to do one thin layer and then let it dry completely and then do another thin layer rather than try to coat it all in one go. Because if we do that, it will it'll look clumpy and it won't be smooth. Okay, and then let that dry and flip it over and try to do the other side. Now, because his hand is, I would recommend subassembling if you want, to be, that means paint it before you glue it on, but it's not necessary. Just got to be a little bit more careful on the back. And just remember, you can fix anything that you make a mistake on. We're hoping that this will be a little bit of a tutorial, so when you get your model, you can come back and watch this video anytime you want and kind of do a little follow along. There we go. And then there's some other spots that are glowing. Let me check. He's got, okay, so 1, 2, 3. So there's a little area right up here. I need to get more medium on my brush. And there's another one right here. And it looks like, let me just check this again. Do this right here. It's a little different from the artwork, but we're gonna, again, use it for inspiration. Let me check chat. What other minis are you looking forward to seeing in plastic from this version, of course? And then, okay, you said Praetorian Stalker Sea Lions are your favorite, all-time favorite units. So you're looking forward to working on those. Good.
Yeah, now I mean, of course, I want to say that just because they're my favorites doesn't mean they're going to get priority.
Now, before I go on to my green, I'm going to put a little black on my palette because I'm going to clean up any areas where I got too much white. This is something I learned. I used to paint a lot of War Machine and Hordes, and I would take workshops from the studio painters. And one of the things they always said is, you know, always clean up before you go on to the next thing. And it really does help. So just that little bit of cleanup made that nice and crisp. And over here, so how does this game play compared to like Warhammer and War Machine and stuff like that? Is it a 6-sided game or is it 10-sided dice? I'm assuming it
So
uses
actually,
dice.
yeah, it does. Yeah, actually, Warzone has always used a D20.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, no, right, absolutely. So, I mean, early on, right, that made it really interesting because with the 20-sided die, obviously, you've got a much greater range of possible results. So it allows you to have more nuance in unit characteristics. What the weapon modifiers are, because a difference of just +1 or +2 isn't as dramatic as it is in a game that uses a 6-sided die, for
Yeah.
instance. But yeah, so it's a D20 based. Our particular Warzone Eternal is going to very much be a skirmish game. So
Hmm.
depending on, you take a bunch of Razides and you're not going to have very many models on the board,
Right.
but on average you're probably looking at anywhere from 10 to 20 models, with 20 models being
Okay.
an army of very low cost creatures.
Yeah.
Uh, it's it's an alternating activation game, so like the original Warzone. So you activate a unit, your opponent then activates a unit, and it bounces back and forth. Some of the things that we're doing differently from older versions of Warzone is we have added a reaction mechanic. So even when it's not your activation, if an enemy does something that triggers one of your reactions, you're able to respond to it. So really, at no point are you ever completely just sitting there waiting for your opponent to finish.
Okay.
Oh, Shoshi, it looks like maybe my volume is not coming through great.
Your volume. Let me see if I can turn you up.
Thanks.
Bear with me, guys. Okay, that volume's up. Let me see if I can turn up the desktop volume here. There we go. We'll turn the music down a little bit as well. It's so touchy. Okay, say something and see if we can hear you better.
All right, how about this? Verkios, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you better. Yeah. Let me pop up my chat. There we go. Okay, hopefully that's better. And I'm going to start with this. It's bright yellow green. Right here is bright yellow green. This is from Procryl. And I also have some fluorescent green from Game Color, which I'll probably put on my palette as well, but I'm going to use these in a few layers here. Now, this is tricks that I learned from, again, Painting War Machine. I used to be a Crix player, and they had lots of green glows. So this is one of my favorite things to do. Okay, so we painted the white, and now we're going to go in with the yellow-green, and we're going to glaze it in. So that luminescence from the white is underneath it. You can't do it just on straight black because it'll, because yellow and green both are kind of transparent. So this has to completely dry. Go back here. Oh, we need a little bit more white on this side. And I'll have to clean this up as well. So when did Warzone first come out? Was it in the 90s or in the 80s?
Yeah, so Warzone released in 1995
Okay.
for the first time. The universe existed before that. There was the actual universe is called the Mutant Chronicles universe.
Yeah.
And so that had actually existed prior to Warzone as a role-playing game. There were 3 board games: Siege of the Citadel, Fury of the Klansmen, and Blood Berets. There were 2 different card games, collectible card games. Doom Trooper, being the most famous. I believe there was actually a video game even for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So there was a ton of exposure to this particular universe, and so the miniatures game really was just about the last of the variety of products that came along set in this universe.
Okay. I definitely remember the name, Mutant Chronicles, for sure. Good. They can hear me better now. All right. So,
Excellent.
in order to make this appear like it's glowing, we have to add some kind of dark green to make it seem like it's gone. So I like to use an ink or this Monument Transparents. They're basically paints that act like inks, but they dry completely matte. And so they're just pure pigments, but they really... So let's see if I can make this work here. So what I'm going to do is go in between all of our little cells and around the edge. Needs to be a little bit more watercolory because it is transparent paint, so it'll do that. There we go. Grab that pink, blue, pink, green. There we go. So this dark part is what really makes it start to feel like it's glowing, because you have to have that dark to contrast. And I'm just going to go ahead and go over this whole bit, come back and pick out those highlights in a little bit. That's still wet. I don't want to mess with that while it's wet. Come back in here. So another question. Completely agree. D20 makes for more versatility. Okay. So do they have things like exploding dice or anything like that? Or is there any kind of critical fails or anything fun?
Yeah, actually, so you're trying to roll low in all the Warzone games.
Okay.
And, yeah, so a roll of a natural 1 is a critical,
Oh.
and that's had a variety of different effects depending on the edition of the game you're playing. Whereas a roll of a 20 is a fumble, and again, a number of different effects.
Oh.
So don't worry, all you Warzone fans out there, we have got those sorts of results baked into Eternal. So there
Nice.
are a number of interesting things that can happen when you roll a critical or a fumble.
Okay, now I go back in with my green and I'm blending in just a little bit because that looks a little tea stained. All right, now I'm going to add white to my green. There's a little bit of green and more, just more white. And then again, just in the center. Oh, the other thing is, as we get to the center of the gun, because there's more and more cells that are closer together, right? They get brighter and brighter. So we can start adding more white as we get to the center. Got a little on his finger, that's okay. So see how it's already looking a little bit glow. It's pretty cool. And I'm just going to hit the top of his fingertips with a little bit of this, because all that light is hitting his fingertips and washing out his red skin. So I put that little bit of pink on there. Here's a funny thing. So I mixed my green in with my red. The red cancels out the green, and because there's so much white in here, it also makes it that pink color. Start putting in those little pink highlights that are on Paul's work. Yeah, that looks great. Now I go back to my green where I've got that pink, and I just kind of glaze that over that. Go back with the white, and again I'm going to make even smaller highlights to make that feel like there's that hot spot right in the middle there. And the same thing with this. I'll go back over the middle, leave that green on the edges. I think I'm going to take just a tiny bit of this fluoro. Yes, fluorescent. And on the edges of my black here, I'm going to see if this is going to work. It might not work because it's on black, but I'm going to add a little bit of white to the fluoro and see if that helps me. Yeah, that's a lot better. This fluorescent is really transparent, so I'm having trouble picking it. There we go. There. Go back with my fluoro over here, and I just glaze that back over some of the white. Like I said, it's transparent, so the white shines right through it. And I went back with my white again. It's like a back and forth until you get it just how you want it with the right amount of glow. Okay, I need to put my glasses on so I can see this. Yeah, look at that. It looks very nuclear. Nuclear. Get my green one more time. Put in my shadow right here. What do you think? Do you like that?
I think that's looking awesome. I think the green was the appropriate color. So
Yeah.
for all of you who voted for green, good job.
Good job. Yep. Yeah, I find that chat has always really inspired me, and they make some pretty good choices most of the time. All right, so there we go. I'm going to try to pull out these little rivets here. Let's see what... Oh, there we go. We're dropping things on the floor as per my usual. Okay, so I'm going to try to put this blue on this rivet. There we go. Hopefully it won't dry on my brush. There's like a dozen of these little rivets. Okay, so remember when I talked about making those edge highlights? So we're going to go back and spot highlight where the little hot, really sharp edges are, like on the corners of stuff. This is with the white, and we already have the blue on there, so it'll be even more contrast with the white. There's another rivet. Gonna add a little bit of fluoro to this highlight over here. It's not smooth enough. This is what people call off-source lighting, when you have that little glow kind of hit areas of the gun. That is looking really cool. I want to put the highlights on his wristband and his head and arms, because I don't know how much time we have, but I want to at least get him to where he looks like it's 3:30, so we've got time. That's good. All right, let me grab my artwork. So you can see we've got like lots of little pink highlights all over him. And the other thing I wanted to do, yeah, that looks good. I need to smooth out his gun a little bit as well with this black. There we go. So when is the Kickstarter really launching?
We haven't announced the exact date, but it's
Okay.
this spring.
Okay.
And for everyone on the call, don't worry, it's not because we have no idea. It's because we're trying to get all our ducks in a row before we announce that Kickstarter date. But yeah, it'll be this spring, and we are in the process of starting to pull together our marketing and promotional materials to start spreading the word about the Kickstarter. So
Get your stuff
people just
painted, get everything looking good.
exactly right. We don't want to start letting people know that we've got a new Warzone coming until we've got your figures to show everyone.
Well, and also you just start developing some hype for everything, and the word of mouth gets around real quick that this is coming out.
Yep, exactly. I mean, again, going back to the community that this game already has, um, without us having done a single bit of actual advertising. The Facebook group for Warzone Eternal, we have I think over 1,100 members, and those are just people who have found the group because they're passionate about Warzone and Mutant Chronicles. So
Oh, that's great.
it is. I know. I mean, the funny thing was, right, when you posted a picture of that golden lion that you were working on, I think it was less than 15 minutes from the time you posted it to your page that it appeared on the Warzone Eternal page. So
Yeah.
there is no sneaking anything by this community.
Well, and it was
If you don't,
seconds between when I posted it and somebody said, "Is this Warzone?"
yeah, I mean, there's no question that this is a property that people have nostalgia for, or just love. I mean, I guess when you say nostalgia, right, it implies some sort of kind of antiquated association with it. It's just there's a love for this property, and it's awesome.
Mhm. I'm putting a little bit of the blue into this purple that I just added so that we can highlight it's got a bunch of little veins and stuff. All right, I'm going to go back over here. This red, these little pipes. The mortificators, mortificate, mortif. I can't say that word.
Yeah,
Are
there's
just
the mortificators.
mortificators. There we go.
They're the secret order of assassins that so one of the factions that is really iconic to this setting that we won't have at the initial Kickstarter, at
Mm,
least in unit form, is the Brotherhood. Right, this
mm.
is the religious order that arises to unite mankind to fight
Oh,
the
of
Dark
course.
Legion, and they're kind of a gray faction, right? They're there
Right.
to fight the Dark Legion, but they've got some they've got some agendas, and the mortificators are the specifically kind of the scalpel that they use to enforce their dominion over mankind, but also
Mm.
at times for surgical strikes against the Dark Legion. I mean, they're not all bad.
So they're kind of like the Inquisitors.
Yeah, in fact, they have a group of people who are inquisitors
Oh, cool.
who are specifically tasked with trying to detect when the Dark Legion has infiltrated humanity.
Oh.
Yes, that's the thing, right? The Dark Legion is not simply a brutal force that is um, barraging humanity with weapons like the Razide. They're
Mm.
also a subtle, invasive force that tries to provide power or other things that
Oh,
humanity
wow.
lusts
Yeah.
after. Yeah, so humanity is in a bad state in the Mutant Chronicles universe.
All right. So now, let me think. I think I've got this pink. This is pale pink from Pro Krill. I don't know if this has ever been opened. Nope. Yep, it is. And I think I'll start by mixing it with some of my red to see. So the trick with this, and I need to put some more of this wash medium on here so it'll blend smooth. Sometimes what you can do, I'm going to show you guys a little trick, is put down your medium first, like it can be a slow dry or whatever it is. Put down the medium. This is called wet and wet, and it's actually a watercolor technique, but do you see how it's a controlled little spot that's wet? It's not going to go everywhere, but we can touch in the middle and kind of tap around the edges and hopefully get this smooth, get some more medium on my brush. It might not work. We'll see. I need to get some more red around the edges. There we go. That's better. Just needs to be a little bit more pink. So when I'm doing highlights on something like this, some of it is made up and some of it you have to kind of imagine where your light source is. And one of the things I do is I'll get my phone and I'll turn on the flashlight and I'll just shine it, and you can see exactly where the hottest highlights are going to be on your models, and that helps me figure it out. Or I use the overhead lamp that is above me to see where those hot spots are going to be. And the smaller the highlight, the more shiny he's going to appear, right? So you can kind of have these bigger highlights like this, but then as we start out like that, and then we'll get a little bit brighter, a little bit more pinpointed right there like this. See that? And if I don't like that after it dries, I can go back and I can knock it back down with a little bit of glaze. And I've got a little bit of red in my glaze medium here. And I can always just do that. And that gives that transparent filter, right? And makes it look even more smooth. I actually really like how that looks. All right, back to the pink. Start out small. I'm tapping in so that way I can blend it. Feel free to ask me any kind of painting questions too, Alex, if you have any, or if chat has any.
Yeah, so personally, one of the things I've always struggled with is, large, rounded surfaces. So really, like all of the musculature on this Razide across the top of his shoulders, his back. How do you identify like where your initial highlight should hit? I mean, other than obviously you showed with the using the light source, but trying to figure out how to identify that spot and then feather it into the rest of it. I've always struggled with that.
It really helps to kind of imagine each of these volumes as break it down into shapes. So like his bicep is a sphere, right? And then if you think about, I don't have a sphere handy, but like, okay, so like look at the top of this, right? This is kind of concave like a sphere, and my hot spot is right there. So if it's from the top, that's about where my highlight's going to be, right? The arms, right? If the whole arm is going to be like a tube, right? So your whole highlight going down is kind of going to be like a sphere. Like if you look at, or sorry, not like a sphere, like a cylinder. So like my brush end has a very straight highlight because it's a cylinder. Same thing with his arms. You're just gonna obviously change the colors just a little bit as you go into the blues. But this is gonna have a pretty distinct cylinder highlight down the side of it. And same thing, the bicep is gonna have, each one of these is gonna have a little volume that you're gonna go into. Each finger is a cylinder, right? And you're thinking about where's the light. The light is, I like to have my light source at like 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And so for this Razide, I'd say it's at 2 o'clock. So I'm imagining there goes my glasses. Where's the light going to be shining? I can even put my phone. This really, really, really helps. Put the phone at 2 o'clock and then look to see where is the camera phone hitting on the model, right? That really helps. Look at his head. See how it has a natural highlight? I didn't paint that there. And his shoulders. And you can also, if you have help, you can have somebody take a picture of it while you're holding a light on it, or you can take a picture of it while you use another light source, and then you can use that as a guide. There's so many cheats that make such a huge difference.
No, I think that makes sense, especially for things like the arms. I think I've always had a hard time accepting that this rounded organic shape should start with a linear highlight, right? It seems counterintuitive to me.
You have to kind of work with it a little bit, right? So I can actually see the model itself is so voluminous that I can see actual highlights like shining on it from the overhead lamp. And you can just go ahead and paint those there so that they actually pop out.
Looks like you got a question about the wet palette you're using,
Yeah.
whether it's something you purchased or it's self-made.
So this is I'm sponsored by Redgrass Games. Beep. And they make these palettes. I also sell them myself. So if you want one, you can get one directly from me if you're in the US. So you don't have to import it yourself. And yeah, they're great. You can buy them. They come with a sponge, like 50 of these palette sheets, and the lid. So you actually can kind of use them as 2 palettes because you can put a sponge in the lid as well. And then you can cover this up with the lid, put it in your fridge, just like you would, when you are house painting and you wrap your roller in saran and you stick it in the fridge. It lets it last longer. It's the same thing with a wet palette. And or you can be like me and let it dry out overnight and then just refresh it every day because I am lazy. But yes, I love it because you can thin out paint so nice. You can keep them wet for a long time. You don't end up using as much paint, so you end up increasing the lifetime of your paint because you're not using so much. And we all know how expensive Citadels are in the US, right? And they're not going to get any cheaper. So the less paint you have to use, the less you have to buy. You're not constantly dipping in here and opening this up and then spilling it all over the place like I am. How do you paint the tubes on the back and neck? So these are, okay, so this is interesting. Okay, watch this. So these are little cylinders, right? I'm going to get in here with my pink. I need to have it. And I'm just going to tap tap my brush with the side of it down the side of this thing and kind of move the model. Don't move the brush. Keep the brush in the same exact position. Just turn the model. And you can, if you really have the patience, which I don't because I'm impatient, you can sit there and hit each one of these little things. But I think that is boring. So I'm just going to tap. And then you can get a little bit lighter with the white here on the top because again the sun is going to hit those more than the ones on the back. And then if I want to go back and glaze again, a little bit of glaze medium, a little bit of red, thin it out. But this needs to be bone dry before you glaze. And then hit that. And look at that pop. I call that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. When you brighten it up 2 steps and then you knock it back down with your glaze. There we go. That's very pretty.
Yeah, you had a follow-up question about painting the claws. So would that very
Yeah.
much follow the previous conversation about painting kind of a cylinder shape?
Well, you can look at his claws. You can literally see the reflection from the overhead light. And so I would pick out my color that I want to be my highlight, and I would paint right over that little reflection. Just like that. And then if I want to smooth it a little bit, not make it so, I'll take a little bit of this. Again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then I let that dry completely. Go back in with the lighter color again and just hit the edges. Look how cool that looks. They look really shiny and sharp. Go back in here. So I'm going to do it again. So I've got my Incubi Darkness. And I'm just painting right where I see the reflection from the overhead light. And that final highlight is the hot spot. That looks really nice. Hopefully that helps. Does that make sense? And then, like, if I wanted to get a little anywhere that I did a spot that looks too, like I want to blend it in more, I can just take the base color, right, and then just smooth back down until I get it just the right amount of smoothness. So over here. Now Paul, when you look at his artwork, you can see again the small highlights. They're very distinct, even down here. So if like I said, the more shiny you want something to look, you're gonna look where that overhead light is hitting it. I need this. And I might need some of that glaze medium to help it look a little bit more smooth on the edges. I'd started highlighting his head and I didn't finish it. And on his face, I'm gonna be a lot more detailed. I'm not gonna be quite as sloppy because I want all the focus to be on the face, right? So I'm gonna make sure to be more deliberate about these highlights because I want the focus to be on the face. And I'm gonna grab some of this pink. I'm gonna put those little hot spots in his eyes with that pink. It's gonna read as white because it's got all that red surrounding it. That's looking cool, and just a little bit.
Yeah,
And
like
then,
that
so
massive cable that he's got all around his face there really kind of
yeah,
helps frame those beady little eyes that he has.
yes. I need to do a little bit of knocking this down a little bit. It's a lot of back and forth with the paints so that you're keeping it red, right? Because we've got so much pink. We don't want to turn him into pink. This way, now our eye is gonna focus on the face. Let's do more cables. Yeah, that really does. It really does frame the face and makes it look. It really looks cool and creepy too. We have a running joke on my live streams that I don't like to paint the back, so I'm going to purposely come around. Now these cables here are much more defined, so it's much easier to get in here.
Yeah, there was a fairly lengthy conversation about Razide's backside on the Warzone Eternal page, Shoshie,
Yeah.
so I don't think you can get away without,
Ha!
spending some attention on it.
Yeah, that's so funny. Alien booty.
Exactly, trying to decide exactly how, supple that should be.
I think it worked out good. I think it's just right.
Yep, no, exactly. That was what was amusing, is to be discussing such things about fictional, techno-organic,
Right.
alien demons. So
He needs those muscles for running, so he can have some
yes,
definition.
it's a heavy gun.
Okay, so now we've got a lot. The highlights are really starting to pick up, and he's really starting to look cool. Add even more bright spots. And again, remember, you can always, kick it down if you don't like it. I need to balance out my purple. See, this whole bicep is a sphere, so I'm kind of highlighting it. The problem is that it is having trouble blending it because it's so, there we go. That helps. That little bit of a wash medium makes a big difference around the edges. And this. Back to the pink. See, a lot of this on this bicep over here, it looks kind of patchy. We can come back in with the red and the wash medium and just glaze that back. I also happen to have transparent red from Pro Krill, which is really nice for glazing as well. And it really pops that red as well, so it's not so pink. See? I'm going to put some on his hands. A little bit of this red. Alright, I'm going to check chat. Everybody should do a little stretch break right now. We have a little thing where we do stretch because everybody's been sitting or standing. I've been standing this whole time because I got a new standing desk. Stretch. Oh, did you hear that? My back popped. Do I use a specific wood palette? Let's see. How do you paint the tubes? I'm just checking to make sure I got all the questions answered. Yeah, the green glowing on the model turned out really nice. Breaking the habit of a lifetime painting the back. Yes. What will I do about the mouth mask area? Let's go back to the mouth mask area because I'm curious about it. It looks boring in Paul's thing. I'm gonna pull out with the pink some of the. There we go. So this just shows up. He's got kind of like a siphon in his mouth, or maybe these are like baleen on a whale.
No, I think that's exactly what they are. That's at least what I've always thought of them as, is some sort of
Like
organic
a natural
filtration system.
Yeah, natural breath mask or gas mask.
Yep, exactly.
That's cool.
Right.
Let me get back into this pink. Oh, this pink right here. There we go. I want to see if I can take a picture of this so I can have a whip to share online, and then I'll show you guys how he looks. Okay, here, take a look at this. Isn't that pretty? Go back here, and again, lots of little hot spots where we can add the red. Ooh, that's bright red. Smooth that out. with me. There we go. Phenomenal. Good. I'm glad somebody likes it there. That's something else that you can do while you're painting is take a picture of your work, because you do kind of get project fatigue where you're looking at it and you can't tell if it's good anymore, and just by taking a photo of it and then looking at it, it's like you get fresh eyes on it. All right, all of these tentacles need a glaze. I'm going to use my transparent red to glaze first of all. Also, I think I need to do, I'm going to use the Citadel contrast paints to put some shadow, because there's only so much I can do. Hold on, watch this. We're going to use the contrast purple. It's called Shyish purple. Put some of this. The stuff is like really pigmented, and you don't need a lot of it. And I'm going to put this down into the crevices in between these tubes. That will really also, so when you feel like you can't highlight up well enough, that means it's time to shade down. That'll also bring out the definition in the tubes. Look at that. He looks really alien now. That's so cool. That really made a difference.
All right, so this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The Razide is looking absolutely awesome. I have to run at this point.
No problem.
This has been cool, and I hope we get to do another one of these again soon.
Definitely. I am probably, let's see what time it is. It is 4:30. I'm going to keep going, I think, until 5, because that's what we said. And you'll be able to see this anytime. I'll publish this so everybody will be able to see this online and be able to follow it along. Thanks so much, Alex.
No, this has been awesome. This has been a blast to watch you do this. So I will talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
You too.
We're going to keep going and keep adding our reds back in. Now, because of time, and also because we want to keep a lot of the focus on the top of the model, we don't need to do a ton of coloring down here. Just enough to, you know, pop those muscles a little bit. There we go. And again, I did get into the blues. I need to get into the blues on this leg as well. Feel free to ask questions. I don't know as much about the game as Alex does, but you can always ask questions about painting. And technique. There we go. I'm going to be doing quite a few models for them, and we're probably going to have other live streams, so feel free to subscribe so that way that you get notified for when I do go live, if you happen to miss the go live announcements on Facebook and stuff, because Facebook's been really slow about pushing content unless things are boosted. More blue. Ah, there we go. Take my glasses off so I can smooth this nice. He's very neat. I think of the 3 models I've painted so far, he's been the most fun. And not just because I'm streaming him, but because he's kind of just a neato guy. There we go. Getting these little highlights is probably getting them to be smooth. Here, let me get some of the medium. I'm going to put that back on my palette. Add a little bit of that. Yes, there we go. Oop, that means I have a subscriber. Yes, good job. I appreciate it. This is about the only place that I do streaming anymore is on YouTube, so this is where you would subscribe. Okay, back to those tubes. We're starting to put in that violet, and man, that really makes him. He really started looking like that Paul Bonner artwork, because Paul's work has that strong contrast with all the muscle definitions and stuff. All right, I'm gonna do the metallic metal on the, or non-metallic metal. Yeah, we'll do non-metallic metal on these wrists. I'm debating on what color I want them to be. Let's start with this green color. Because I think that'll show off real nice. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, that's looking fine. I'm just putting that Incubi Darkness over his wrists, and then I'm going to take this light blue and I'm going to just find all of my edges, because non-metallic metal is all about light. And so all the areas that light is going to catch. And then so, again, we need to think about this as a tube. Where is the light hitting? It's kind of rounding around this edge here. And then I'm with non-metallic metal, sometimes I fake it till I make it. And I'm just going to do these little crosshatchy marks. That doesn't look as how I want to look. I'm going to get some black. What I need to do, and probably do this off stream, is go look up silver or, you know, a dark color metal to really look at it so that I can see what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and put these shadows in. This is tricky. Go back with the white. Okay, Okay, that's starting to look better. That's the thing about non-metallic metal is sometimes you start out, it doesn't look right, and then all of a sudden you just pop it and it looks right all of a sudden. And I'll probably go clean that up a lot. Let me see what you guys have to say. That's it. Okay, that's looking okay. It needs work. Some of the stuff is difficult to do on stream. This is more incubi darkness. Let that dry. So I want to point out that since I put that white there, it's drawing my eye down there instead of on his face. So we have to go back and add some medium, and we have to glaze this down so it's not not drawing the eye quite so much. There, that's better already. Get some of this purple in here. Better. Let's go back to his face and hit these highlights. And then glaze it back down. Red is a little transparent, so that makes it easy. Let's use the transparent red as well. Let me compare this to the artwork. You guys can see. He's looking really nice. Well, folks, I'm getting a little fatigued, and I want to see if anybody wants me to keep going, say something in chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and probably call it here. This is a good spot. I like it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you again. And if you're interested in seeing me stream more often, I do have monthly streams with my Patreon. Yes, thanks everyone for joining. See you all on the Warzone Eternal Facebook page. You can find that on my Facebook page on the Golden Lion. I'll post another link once I post Razide to the Facebook page. All right, here we go. Bye, guys. Thanks so much.